Welcome to Your Vision in Focus, exploring the possibilities with EssilorLuxottica Eye Care. I'm Dr. Vicky Zarinko, Senior Manager of Internal Doctor Engagement. In this role with EssilorLuxottica, I get to work with all of our affiliated doctors, including those with LensCrafters, 4Eyes, Target Optical, and Pearl Vision. It is definitely an exciting time to be an optometrist, and the career opportunities are more diverse than ever before. But the biggest leap any of us take in our careers is still the first one, from optometry student to independent clinician. Join us as we bring together optometrists and other members of the eye care industry to help you navigate the earliest steps of your career. From nailing that first interview to paying off debt, finding the right mentor, and discovering the perfect practice setting, we look forward to making that first leap with you.
On this episode, we are focusing on the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation, a registered charitable organization reflecting the commitment and values of EssilorLuxottica to help eliminate uncorrected poor vision in a generation. Good vision is a basic human right, yet uncorrected poor vision still affects 2.7 billion people around the world. We will discover how the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation helps to bring everyone in the world the joy of good vision. Joining us are Becky Palm, Vice President, Executive Director, and General Counsel, OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation North America, and Dr. Ashley Garcia, a LensCrafters affiliated multi-practice sublease doctor, founder of Modern Eye Care Optometry, and a recent volunteer at a OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation clinic. Together, we will explore how optometrists can help improve the lives of many through good vision while building lasting skills and professional relationships. Whether you are a student or a practicing optometrist, this episode will open your eyes to the impact you can make beyond your practice. Welcome, and can you introduce yourself and your role with the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation?
My name is Becky Palm. I'm the Executive Director of OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation for North America. So my role is leading the charitable initiatives that we take in different programming around the country.
That's awesome. What a great role and a great foundation to be associated with. Can you go through a little bit of the history and really what the aims are for the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation?
EssilorLuxottica has a very rich history in supporting charitable initiatives with the aim of providing more vision care access to all, not only North America, but around the globe. And it has a number of legacy organizations, and in 2022, it brought many of those all under the same umbrella, from Essilor Vision Foundation to OneSight and Vision Impact Institute, just to name a few, and all coming under one banner as the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation, with the idea and the principle of let's broaden our platform and elevate the voice of vision. And with that, we are motivated, and our goal is to eliminate uncorrected poor vision in a generation.
I mean, that is, access to care is so important. It's even an important part of what my role is with EssilorLuxottica. I do it through doctor retention. You're providing that access to people who may not have it at all. How is the foundation working to create a sustainable solution for these patients that lack care?
Well, I'll start with the scope. And the scope is 2.7 billion people around the world. 1 in 3 have uncorrected poor vision, and 90% of those live in developing countries. So we recognized very, very early on that we would need to focus on sustainable programming in order to be able to reach the broad population to provide that access. So, starting back in 2013, we started developing a number of different programs, and iMitra is one of our initial programs, but we also have vision centers that we've started, and our most recent one is iConnect. The iMitra program started in India, focus on training rural youth to train and focus on becoming opticians in their local communities. Every iMitra would serve around 25,000 people. And then our most recent program of the iConnect program creates even simplified way of working, in that it creates a telerefraction component. It also simplifies and creates a hybrid and digital training so that we can train and mobilize even more people. So we have now created 30,000 different access points and reached 915 million people. Our idea of reaching all is that they can have access to vision care within 1 day's travel. So the 915 million now have access within 1 day. So when you talk about the bigger goal of 2.7, we're making really great strides, but we're very motivated to get to that full ambition in the generation. So.
No, I mean, that's really amazing. And I mean, you're talking about even starting with sort of the most basic, which is access to, just correctable vision. Mm-hmm. And it really is kind of mind-blowing, the number of people who don't even have access to that. But these systems that you have put in place, that the foundation has started to build, it's going to reach so many more people. So I think that's really awesome, and it's great to be part of that. Being part of EssilorLuxottica. How do you, through the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation, engage with, our optometrists or optometrists in general to be part of it and to participate and to help bring that care?
Well, especially in North America, it's vital. We have to have an OD involved in order to provide someone with a pair of glasses. So our partnership is a special one, and one that we would like to continue to thrive. And so we work very closely with the EssilorLuxottica eye care team in many ways, but one of the big ones is that this past year alone we had over 170 days of being on the road at various different clinics and providing care on the ground in North America. And with every one of those clinics, we need ODs to help in that process. Those ODs do need to be licensed in that state or being practicing under a licensed OD, but we work with the eye care team very closely to identify where we're going to be, and then work with identifying ODs or even students in OD schools that are nearby to try and help serve those clinics. And really appreciate connecting and bringing those ODs into our service programming whenever we can. And especially when it comes to the students, we also work with the students to make sure we can accommodate with their travel and their needs to get to clinics, to be able to not have any barriers in order to participate in our programming.
So you mentioned the students. Being part of EssilorLuxottica as a doctor, there's opportunity, but you're also saying that even students can participate even before they have graduated and been licensed. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for that. So to clarify, any third or fourth year OD student could definitely participate, and especially even if you're not licensed yet. I'm not an OD, but I do know that we've got the licensing standards. But we'll have licensed ODs from that state that will also participate, so that they can be involved.
How many students have sort of come through your program?
Last year we had about 20 students that came through the program, but again, we welcome the more the merrier. I mean, it's really one of those things where there's a lot of opportunity on these clinics. In addition to the exams, all of the different pre-screening, all the different stations are involved. We'd love to get students and the profession involved in it as early as possible. So I say that as just as a guidepost, but as I mentioned, we have over 170 clinic days in operations, and we usually have at least 2 lanes. So when you think about it that way, that's 340. So we have you're doing the math too. I think that's right. Yeah. So we have a lot of opportunities for involvement, and not only that, I should mention that many of the OD schools, if you've got a clinic in your school, it's very possible, and if not, would love to partner with you. We've got a charitable program that many of the clinics use, where we're through the foundation, one of our charitable glasses programs. We're providing through the EssilorLuxottica Lab Network, we're providing glasses for those clinics. So even if you can be at our clinic, but you could also be working in your own clinic and partnering with the foundation.
That's great. So people can actually have access to glasses, because just finding the refractive error and correcting it isn't enough. You've got to be able to actually provide the glasses to them. So it's great to have these different channels and avenues to help the patients. How many, roughly in a given clinic how many patients would you see in a day?
So it depends on the lanes, but let's say we have 1 lane. I mean, 2 lanes, I should say. On average, when we have 2 lanes, we see about 50 patients a day.
So we've talked about doctors volunteering and students volunteering. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how anybody who is interested in helping out in one of the clinics can actually reach out and let you all know?
Sure. So we have an annual process called I Volunteer that allows individuals to apply for our clinic run, so just once a year. Now that is for EssilorLuxottica employees or subleased ODs to participate, and that usually happens in Q1 of every year. And so that application comes through, and then we assign them to clinics. However, we also have a strong connection, separate and apart from that, with the OD schools. So we work directly, the foundation works directly with the OD schools and the students to identify students that may want to participate in clinics. We are working on developing a direct portal or site for ODs and OD students to express interest. So as we map out our clinic schedule and our locations and dates, we can align with those that might be in a particular area and licensed or in a school nearby. But in the meantime, we do have a QR code where that individuals can scan and put in their information and where they're located and express an interest. So again, we are happy to have the volunteer and the professionalism at our clinics, and we want to align that. So we do have those kind of dual processes depending on kind of where they sit, but all are welcome.
That's great, and I'm sure there are students, there are new doctors, people who maybe have even been with EssilorLuxottica for a while that now have a new opportunity to do something, give back to the community. So that's really exciting. Thank you so much for coming today and helping us learn more about the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation. So for students, for new doctors, or even doctors who have been with EssilorLuxottica for a while, I think it's great to hear about this program that brings care out into the community. So thank you so much for sharing everything about it, and we're looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. As I said, ODs are just such a special piece of our partnership, and hopefully together we can help those 1 in 3 and provide everyone access to vision care.
Absolutely.
Happy early World Sight Day.
Absolutely, thank you. Hi, Dr. Garcia. Can you briefly introduce yourself and how you came to learn about the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation?
Yeah, so I've actually been practicing for about 5 years now. And the first 3 years of me practicing, I was an associate doc. And then I wanted to see if where I was where I belonged, essentially. So I did take a little hiatus for a year to go somewhere else and then came back as a leaseholder, actually. So in about 2 weeks, I will go ahead and come up on my 1 year anniversary of having a lease, and I actually have two here in San Antonio, Texas. So very excited. I'm very new to it. I actually heard about OneSight as an associate doc at first because there was a little like donation box in the front of the office, and so I asked what that was actually about at first because I didn't really know much about it. And they told me how it was about like a volunteer opportunity. So when there was an email sent out about volunteers for something that was local here in San Antonio, I jumped on the opportunity because, well, I'm local, so that was going to be an easy drive for me, essentially. But I wanted to kind of be able to give back one way or another to the community since I've done that in the past in my like optometry school in general.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your 1 year anniversary
Thank
as a
you.
business owner. That's awesome. And you said you now have two
I
subleases, is that
do.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, super busy, but you still find the time to volunteer and give back to the community. I think it's so great that you've kind of been able to see things from both sides as an associate and now as a leaseholder, and then still hold on to the value of volunteering and giving back in the community. Can you talk about a little bit about how the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation supports and empowers volunteer optometrists like you, through involvement with their programs?
So when I had gotten an email that I was actually selected, they did make it very easy process in terms of like itineraries and what was necessary to actually get to the clinic itself. So I lucked out to where I'm local, so I was able to go ahead and drive myself. But they did make it very easy in terms of this is like what you would do with at the airport, who's picking you up, what hotel you would stay at. There was team meetings that were going on as well and dinners too, so that way the team can go ahead and get to like learn about one another and get to know everyone before you kind of like jump in and start doing patient care. So everything was laid out very easily. And then once we actually got to the clinic, to the site itself, because the clinic is a van, like a bus. So everything that you would need is in there. So there's 2 exam lanes that are fully equipped with a phoropter, and we had a handheld slit lamp and had all the drops that we would need and any sort of like testing that we wanted to do for a comprehensive exam. And there was also stations. So with our volunteers, whether they're local or from all over the country, they were kind of trained on the spot how to do certain stations when it came to like checking vision, checking pressures, doing like any sort of like entrance testing. So it was very much team oriented. So once the patient actually went through all stations and then went into the bus itself, me and the other doctor were going to be able to do our exams, and that patient would go ahead and have their prescription and be able to get it filled there on the van too. They would make it there.
Oh, that's great. And I mean, it's great that there was a lot of team building beforehand, because those days can be very, very hectic and busy, rewarding, but kind of hectic and busy. You said that you also had experiences doing this kind of outreach as a student as well?
Yes, in optometry school, there are certain organizations. So there's something called like SBOSH, where you're like your student volunteers. There's also like a faith-based or type of volunteer program as well. So in optometry school, I had gone to Guatemala to go ahead and do comprehensive exams, and they too had something very similar where they were able to make the glasses on site. There was quite a bit more disease during that particular program just because of where it was. But I was able to go, out of the country to do that. Also did one that was a bit more local in the Rio Grande Valley, where they also have quite a bit of disease there as well. But we were able to go ahead and give them glasses on site too. It's very similar, where they had like a van that was able to make and edge these lenses. So that's always been a very core value of mine, to be able to go ahead and make sure that you jump on any sort of volunteer, because as a business owner, and even like beforehand as an associate doc, things are businesses, but you also need to make sure you kind of stay true to why you joined the profession, essentially, and that is to go ahead and help others in need.
No, absolutely. I did a couple of these experiences as a student as well. We went to Ecuador and Guatemala, and Guatemala is a gorgeous country. The people are super nice,
Yeah.
and the things that you see there are things maybe you won't see elsewhere. But it's also nice to, remember that there's need closer to home too.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, throughout your experiences volunteering, is there anything, a patient experience or anything significant that stood out to you, especially when you worked with the OneSight EssilorLuxottica Foundation?
Yes, so for the one that I just completed, it was so Pleasanton, Texas is about 25 minutes south of San Antonio. So that's where our site was this year. And a lot of school children were coming through. So I had a little girl who came in with her little brother and her mom. And mom was kind of giving me a brief background of how her daughter had just been diagnosed with dyslexia and was just held back that year. And so they just wanted to go ahead and make sure that vision was doing okay, but she had already had that diagnosis. So as we were doing the exam, it comes out that she's actually nearsighted and has a pretty like decent amount of astigmatism as well, which was hindering her from being able to pay attention in school, being able to see the board and even seeing like worksheets and whatnot. So when I was talking with her mom a little bit more, that it may be a possibility that she may not like fully meet that criteria of having that diagnosis, because once she was behind the phoropter and was able to see the letters, she wasn't confusing them at all. So it was a bit heartbreaking at first, because if only she had, gotten her exam during that school year, which shows that it doesn't matter whether it's the beginning, the middle, or end, that we should, have our eyes checked in general because maybe she didn't have to be held back a year. So that particular like encounter really stood out to me because it was such a easy thing to be able to get checked and not have to like repeat a whole grade level again. And so they were very appreciative. She was able to go ahead and get her glasses made that same day as well. And when she put them on, it was the best. We were able to see her put them on and like look across the cafeteria and be able to see everything so well. So that was my favorite experience that I had.
I mean, that's what a testament to the power of, essentially the refraction, right? I
Yeah.
always say everything starts with figuring out best vision first. And,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, for want of a pair of glasses and checking vision, it had a sort of a profound effect on her life really early on, but you were able to step in and make that change basically instantly.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the one thing I always go back to with optometry. That's what we do. Patients come in and sometimes they can't see and they leave and their lives are completely different. So
Mm-hmm.
what a wonderful story to share really about the power of, your eye exam. So I think that's fantastic example of that impact that you can have. And we have it in the exam lane on an everyday basis, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit sometimes more powerful and out in the community. So, for anybody thinking about doing this, whether they are already, affiliated with EssilorLuxottica, maybe there are students out there who are watching this and they think that, they would love other opportunities to get back to the community. What are any words of advice that you would share with anybody thinking about volunteering and participating in programs like this?
Well, the good news is the majority of times they're already in place. All you have to do is ask, right, to see exactly what programs are already established and if you can join or help in any other way. And if for some reason that's not already implemented, why can't you be the one to start it? If that's something that you are really passionate about, there are always going to be other people that will be just as passionate about volunteering. And also, just when it comes to volunteering in general, I mean, just make sure you wear comfy clothes and you are ready to be flexible because you never know what's going to walk in and be on your chair or what may or may not be working at that time, essentially. But there's always a need, and if you are willing, you will definitely be able to fill it.
I think that's pretty great advice all around. If it's not there, start it yourself. I think the wear
Mhm.
comfy clothes as well. Those are words
Yes.
of wisdom. So
Uh-huh.
it's a long day and it's a rewarding day, but you should definitely be comfortable and ready to move. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving your perspective and volunteering and helping out in the community. We very much appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.